Hello, this is Allie with the Perception Trainers, author of The Perception Diet, and today we're going to talk about why trying to get rid of your ego is just spiritual bypassing. So if you watched the last video where we talked about the divine self, the inner child, and the ego, you now understand that we have these three kind of parts of us that are all working to come together to be unified. Yes? That our consciousness is working to unify and bring together. And this is a part of what human life is. That it's not that there are any parts of you that you're supposed to get rid of, that you're supposed to let go of, that are not a part of the reality, but that it is about bringing all these aspects of yourself together and seeing how they all actually are completely connected. So we talked about last in that video about how you have your divine self. And I would even just call that, unity consciousness, right? There's the part of you that is intrinsically connected to all that is. And that's that unity consciousness, that awareness that you are one with everything, that you are absolutely a part of all that is, and everything that is a part of you, and there is no true separation, right? Then there's the ego part, which I define as being the fractal of the divine, of the all, that you represent. So your ego is not outside of the allness. It is a specific part of the allness. So just like in the human body, we can look at the whole thing as a whole. Yes? You have your whole body and it's just one unit and it's one thing. Without any part, it wouldn't work properly. Now, we can also look inside and see that we have a liver and we have a heart and we have lungs, and these things appear to be separate organs. However, you take an organ out, it doesn't function on its own. It's not an individual thing in and of itself. It is an individual thing within a unit. And we've been talking about this a lot on the channel lately, that in order to truly understand reality, we have to become comfortable with paradox. We need to become comfortable with the idea that reality contains everything. It's not one or the other, it's both. So the ego is the divine embodied as a specific fractal to learn about itself. So again, understanding that if the whole body was just an amalgamous blob, we couldn't know anything about it. We couldn't understand how it worked because there's no boundaries. There's no this to compare to that, to compare to this, to compare to that, to see, okay, this is doing that, this is doing that, this is doing that, this is doing that. It is because it is separated out that we can understand how it all works together. And that's exactly how the ego works. You are here to represent one fractal of God, one specific, unique, individual representation of a bit of all that is. And understanding that as you do that, as you learn about yourself, because you are intrinsically connected to everything, that separation that we perceive to be happening because we live in our skin isn't true in the sense that it's not the ultimate truth, right? As you learn about yourself, you're going to see that you learn more about the reality. And as you learn about the reality, you realize, wow, that's like totally reflected in me. I am just a mirror of everything that is. Where it's all a big mirror of itself and it's all individual. Yes? So we have both. We have all of this. Your ego is not what's stopping you from being able to be connected to everything. Your ego is actually the thing that enables you to understand your connection to everything. Because if you didn't see yourself as separate, if you didn't see the boundaries, there would be no you to understand that you are connected. In order for you to know unity, you also must experience separation. They're one and the same. The experience of one is dependent on the experience of the other, and therefore they are both a part of reality. You are here to learn about the specific fractal of God that you represent, which then adds to consciousness as a whole. And you are here to understand consciousness as a whole is adding to the specific fractal that you are. It's one and the same. It's a big cycle. All right? And now the inner child is simply the part of you that is not aware of you yet. That's all it is. It's not aware of the truth of who you are yet. It's not aware of the truth of divinity, and it's not aware of the truth of the ego. So it is behaving in a way that is fear. It has lack of information. That's all it is. The inner child is the ego without information. Period. End of story. So the divine self is the awareness of everything. The ego is the awareness of the fractal of God that you represent. The inner child is the part of us that doesn't get that yet. Okay? That's simple. So now when we look at this teaching of awakening is coming to a state where you realize that you don't exist, or you realize the reality doesn't exist, or that you get rid of your ego. Let's talk about this, all right? First things first. Whenever anyone is teaching this, I really encourage you to go and look at their life. Go look at their history, go look at what they've been through, because you're probably invariably going to find that everyone, or pretty much everyone, that teaches this teaching either comes from a background of severe depression, self-hate, self-rejection, pain in this world, okay? They're not coming from like a background of like my life was pretty good and everything was pretty great and then I realized I didn't exist and everything was fine. You're usually going to find that they have some deep existential pain that they were dealing with, all right? And then there came a point where something broke in them and they realized, oh, I don't exist. And that felt like bliss and that felt like relief. And they thought, oh, that's the truth. I don't exist. My problems don't exist. This reality doesn't exist. And therefore all my problems that are there because of who I am, because of the reality, also don't exist. And now I am at peace. Okay. We can see, right, that teaching is going to be incredibly attractive to most people, because most people, knowingly or unknowingly, truly believe that the reason they are unhappy, the reason their life is hard, the reason they are suffering, the reason they're in pain is because of their ego, their individual identity, who they are, right? Because we've all been rejected. We've all been told we can't be who we are. We've all gone through these experiences of love going away based on us expressing ourselves as we are. And rather than allowing that to grow us, rather than allowing us that to take that inner child and say, okay, right, childlike perspective that says love comes from the outside, and if I don't align with what everyone else is doing and if I'm not loved by those around me, that I'm gonna die, that I'm no longer gonna be loved, I'm disconnected now, it's all these existential fears, right? Instead of taking that and saying, no, okay, let's grow that, let's mature that. That's not really true. I have a source of love within me. I'm an adult now. Or I can provide for myself. I definitely went through a childlike state where I didn't have control over my reality and I did need my parents to love me to survive, and that was definitely a part of it. But I'm an adult now and that's not happening anymore. And so let's work through that, right? We take that pain and say, well, no, this pain is definitely true. I'm feeling it. I believe it. I believe all these bad things about myself. I've had these experiences of being rejected. I have the evidence that it's who I am. That is the reason that I'm in pain, that I can't change who I am, and therefore I'm definitely going to be in pain forever. And so the only solution is to believe that I don't exist in order to feel better. You see that teaching is going to be very attractive because it does, in a sense, seem to solve the problem of you, right? We all believe we're the problem, that my pain is because of myself. My pain is because of my experiences. Everything that I've been through is my problem. Everything that I am is my problem. And we are over-identified with the experience, right? So everything that we've been through, we identify with that as being an intrinsic part of who we are and an intrinsic part of how we have to feel because of what we've been through. And then we over-identify with our identity and our separateness, right? As we over-identify with our identity being the thing that makes us separated from other people. And therefore, to believe that you don't exist, to believe the reality doesn't exist, is going to be a huge relief. And so if we really look at it like that, okay, this teaching that you don't exist is going to be incredibly attractive to anyone and everyone who believes that who you are and what you've experienced is the cause of your pain. All right? So that's the first thing. And then let's just put that aside for a second. The second thing is, I would also encourage you to observe anyone who tells you that they've lost their ego, they no longer have their ego, they're in unity consciousness all the time now, and watch how they still have a personality. Watch how they still dress in a certain way. Watch how they still make food choices. They don't feel hungry and put food in someone else's face. Because we're not thinking this all the way through, okay? If someone had truly, completely, and fully lost their ego, transcended their ego, no longer in their ego, they would not be able to live in this reality. They would not be able to feed their body because they would see no difference between themselves and food. They would not be able to feed their body because they would be hungry and put food in your face. They would not put clothes on their body. The people, if you were really going to take this all the way, I don't exist, you could not live in this reality. You see, this reality, living in this reality, is completely dependent upon you understanding that you are an ego. And you owning that ego. Because without it, you die. You can't have a physical body without an ego. You see? And so when people tell you that they've lost their ego, what they're usually meaning is that I've gotten really, really good at denying a lot of aspects of myself. I've gotten really, really good at not feeling my pain anymore. I've gotten really, really good at disidentifying with my experience. And again, this is not necessarily a bad thing, all right? So what I want to say is where I believe this teaching should go. So where I believe this teaching is helpful, okay? This you don't exist, your problems don't exist, it's all an illusion. Okay, it has its place. It's not totally wrong because it's true. We all, in our awakening journey, need to go through a phase where we loosen how strongly we identify with the ego aspect part and with the inner child part, right? Where we start to relax how much emphasis we put on my experience being who I am, what I've been through being who I am, and this ego that I don't like being who I am, right? That's a phase we have to go through for a lot of us. Because to jump from complete self-hate, everything about me is the reason I'm in pain, everything about my experience is the reason I'm in pain, to self-love, which I believe is where true enlightenment lies, is a massive chasm. You're not going to jump from I hate myself to I love myself because you have all this evidence built up for why who you are is the reason you're in pain. Look at everyone rejected me. All this shit happened. And also it is my ego that has been through all these experiences that were also really painful and I don't like and I don't understand. And therefore, this is the reason for all of my pain. So that's what's happening. So when we go through a period where we allow ourselves to question how much of that is really truly who we are, that is incredibly beneficial. Like the work of Byron Katie. Is this really true? Or is this my mind creating this? Am I creating a story about reality that isn't true? Yes? That's the stuff that's important. Where we release our over-identification with the reality, with our experiences, and with the ego that we hate so much right now. We got to create that bubble. Now, that's not the end of the story, however, because again, like I said, if the answer was truly to lose your ego, you'd have to die. You couldn't be in a physical experience. So that's obviously not the end point. That can't be where we stop. All right? So the next phases that we go through is that we start to understand that a whole bunch of the things that we thought were so horrible about ourselves are not actually true. It's not that the part of us that we are that got rejected is what's causing us pain. The part that's causing us pain is that we believe that to be myself means to be rejected, and love only comes from the outside. So in order to feel love, I have to either not be myself, or in order to be myself, I have to give up love. That's the true source of our existential pain. I can either be myself, which is super painful because it disconnects me from everybody, or I can be who everyone wants me to be, but that's super painful because it disconnects me from myself. Either way, I feel like love doesn't exist and life is painful. So that is where we have to understand paradox and understand that the true liberation comes from the understanding of this paradox and the unifying of this paradox. Where you're going to find actual liberation and freedom is not in pretending that you don't exist. It's in understanding who and what you are, understanding your own connection to love that is always available, that you don't have to reject any aspect of yourself just because everyone else is, that you don't have to cut yourself off from love just because other people do, that you don't have to live in a state of fear, which is just lack of understanding, because everyone else is. You don't have to buy into the idea that because you are a separate identity, you are separated from someone else. You don't have to buy into the idea that just because someone rejects you, that love has gone away. You don't have to buy into any of that. That's the maturing of the inner child. That's the maturing of the inner child. The second thing is, you don't have to look at any of your experiences as being something that means something bad about you or the reality. That's the second part of the maturing of the inner child, is that you go back through your experiences and you allow yourself to feel what you feel about them. You go through that childlike process of expressing all those emotions and wishing it didn't happen and pretending it happened a different way and telling yourself all these stories and all this stuff. And then eventually you get back down to, okay, but this is what actually happened. And then you start to understand that the true source of pain is not the reality itself. The true source of pain is not you. The true source of pain is the gap between your perception of what happened and the actual reality. That's what hurts. We suffer when we are out of alignment with the truth of reality. So if any part of your history makes you feel pain, your understanding of what happened and what actually happened are different. Not to say that the thing that actually happened didn't happen. It's to say that the way you have interpreted what it means about you and what it means about the reality is incorrect. When you hate a part of yourself, it is not because other people rejected it. It is because you rejected it and you made a whole bunch of rules about how if you are going to be this, all this terrible stuff is going to happen. And I'm dependent upon external love, and therefore to express myself the way that I am is going to get me cut off. You have to mature that inner child and get to the point where you can say, no, even if the whole world rejects me, I can still love myself and feel connected to the whole world. That's the key. That's actual transcendence. Just because everyone rejects me doesn't mean I feel disconnected from them. I'm not disconnected. Even if I never spend time with anyone ever again, me being inside my skin doesn't disconnect me from anybody else. And the reason that I feel like I have any kind of authority to talk about this is because I was born with a whole bunch of filters blown, okay? I was born not, like genuinely not understanding the difference between me and someone else. I still can put myself in someone else's body and feel everything they're feeling as though I'm them. So I have these filters blown. I've had a harder, I understand why this is such a difficult concept for people who feel so completely inside themselves. That you feel so much that you are this and this is all you are and there's nothing outside, okay? But I'm just telling you that I've had the experience of feeling everything outside. When I'm talking to somebody and I'm in the middle of a sentence and I can feel that they are all of a sudden misunderstanding me, it's like they drop off. I can feel it. So I feel unity almost more than I feel my own ego, and I've had to do the reverse. And so what I'm saying is that it's not being yourself that's cutting you off, and I know it from my own experience because I've experienced that being myself doesn't cut me off from anything, and in fact, I have to be more myself sometimes instead of being so unified. And so that's what I'm saying. Transcendence is not I don't exist. Transcendence is my interpretation of myself and the reality are incorrect. So if I'm in pain, I need to change what I'm perceiving. That's what this is. So yes, we loosen our connection, we loosen our over-identification with all of these things, but we got to go past that. We have to come to self-love, fully embracing and embodying who you are. and understanding that that helps you to fully embrace and embody reality, and that's what feels good. Mwah.